All right, all you listeners of the madness and anyone lucky enough to catch this show on their AM/FM dials, welcome to yet another unpredictable, unplanned, unseasoned, and now under a W-2 form of deductible dose of madness edition of Under the Radar. I am your host from the East Coast, DJ Smokey, and seeing the fact that we're bringing madness prior to the madness of taxes that you've got to do at home, we might as well waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special pre-tax day dose of madness edition of Under the Radar. Because we kick things off with a very special newspaper clipping edition of yesterday's news. Because apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, they're using the scissors they had from last year's tax rebate. Nice! Also, besides that, we go ahead and check out some screenshots and whatnots from the Twitterverse from this past week and beyond for another edition of the Four Squared Delight. And speaking of beyond, folks, we take a trip directly to that Rod Sterling universe of games while we adjust our cool-looking ties to take a trip directly to the Indy Zone. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, it's glowing again. I don't know how to fix it. And speaking of people getting fixed, we find out which one of you crazy stunners out there is gonna finally be able to turn your medical bills into a tax deduction. Or chances are add more to the mix for another edition of the wild world of stunts. And according to Carl and the Maestro, apparently according to the form they got in front of them, having a concussion and having your hospital bills added to it does add to your tax deductibles. Never knew that. Then finally, last but not least, and hopefully before those infomercials flicker on and off your television sets, we wrap up this show yet another edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the Maestro to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and for any of you listening at home, ease back those recliners, cause it's time for us to get ready to fly low as we go under the radar. Let's get this madness started, folks. All right, all you listeners of the madness, welcome back to Under the Radar. Now, two things before we really kick off this show any further, folks. First off, the comment that we got on YouTube from one fan who would say that we sounded like, what was that again, Carl and Maestro? A mint condition Corvette when we do this show. I see it. I see it. A lot of energy, a lot of power. Yeah, I can see myself being a mint condition Corvette in that case. And secondly, for you Metro Redux fans out there, for the next 48 hours for Metro 33 Redux, you can get that game for absolutely free on Steam. And on other places, just make sure you head on over there and cop that disc before it's not available anymore. Yeah, and I think we did our due diligence for that news report. And speaking of news reports and surprises that hit us from out of left field when we clicked on this microphone, I think it's time for us to take out our left-handed scissors to cut out some very interesting newspaper clippings from this past week and beyond for another edition of yesterday's news. And And in our first yesterday's news story, and an exciting news for you fans out there, or a little bit of bad news according to Carla the Maestro from the world of 7 Days to Die. The recent Storms Brewing update that was supposed to come out this past week, unfortunately has been delayed by several weeks. But at the same time, with that little bit of bad news, a little bit of silver lining comes with it, folks, because it's been announced outside of the already crazy things they've included in this game, including the Desert Plague Spitter for the desert biome. They've also announced they're adding a brand new creature, a part of it called the Frost Claw in the snow biome area, which for some strange reason looks like the Yeti. So at this point, folks, I got a feeling things are going to get really, really crazy in the world of 7 Days to Die. But at the same time, I got enough time to get to the next Horde Night in my save file for 7 Days to Die, so I don't have to deal with any of that. Because I think we relocated our base over to the burnt forest, and if they got that in the desert and that in the snow area, I can only imagine what they got cooked up for the burnt forest biome, seeing the fact that I've already seen wolves, bears, and other crazy things that I had to fight, and it wasn't even a Horde Night. That's just a regular old day in the park for me. But if you guys want to go ahead and check out all of the cool things that will be making its way to 7 Days to Die within the next update, that'll most likely hit by around, I give it around mid-May, and that's a ballpark guess, then you can go ahead and head on over to the Community 7 Days to Die page, only known as community.7daystoDie.com, to check it out for yourselves. And just as a heads up, head under the news and announcements section under the V2.0 Storms Brewing Diary to get the word from the horse's mouth itself. Yeah, from the fun pimps, not from the horse's mouth. Anyway, according to Carla the Maestro, move on to the next story, because in other yesterday's news, and more or less yesterday's video game news, for you fans out there who always wanted to be a part of a Sonic game in a Battle Royale function, well, I have some good news for you. Because it's been announced that they're coming out with a brand new Sonic multiplayer game that pits several different players from the Sonic universe against each other. And yes, I said against Carla the Maestro. Now, the one character I got a feeling that I will try to play as in this game, since it's been a long-time favorite of mine, is maybe Tails, and hopefully if it has Big the Cat and Carla the Maestro, yes it does, those will be the two people I be. Now, I would have been Metal Sonic, but after the last time I played as him and lost miserably, yeah, I'm gonna stay away from Metal Sonic, but I'm definitely gonna be Tails. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the cool trailer for this set game of Sonic Rumble, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page or to the Game Informer page of one man only known as GameInformer.com to check it out for yourselves. And as a little bit of a heads up, this game will be released as of May 8th of 2025. Nice! Nice! And in other yesterday's news, and more or less fantastic news from the world of Piemations. Because Piemations this past weekend will release a very short, but at the same time, by the size of the ants, very cool looking video describing some form of antsy feeling that the ants would have. Now, when I say it, it sounds like I'm going insane. But when Piemations makes it, it's absolutely awesome. And I'm hoping in the near future we get a chance to see another one of those apartment videos that he would have, that or a video from the said sheriff of the county. I would have said one video featuring Suction Cup Man, but I got a feeling it's gonna be a while before we see that. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the cool animation of the antsy feeling from some ants, then you can head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Piemations. Yeah! To check it out for yourselves. And Carl and the Maestro said the name of the page is just Pimations, but we say it like that because it's fun. That, and plus that's how they end all of their videos. And in other yesterday's news, and more or less news from the world of cinema, because for any of you out there who missed the said production of Cross's brand new film that was featured at the said film festival, which would be Blue Evening, well, I have some good news for you. Despite you missing it, we would see Cross going home or potentially being a part of the Great Gatsby Gala Awards for Best Actor and Best Featured Film, as well as Best Director. So a big congratulations to the Herald of Doomsday for being a part of that. And for those out there who wants to check out a couple of photos from that said award show, then you can head on over to the said YouTube or Twitter page of one man only known as Real Killer Cross to check it out for yourselves. And I got a feeling in the near future, if he does decide to release the film, it will be a part of the Indy Radio Arcade when it happens. Hopefully somewhere around the month of Independence in July. But besides trying to plan future dates for things, folks, I think it's time for us to go ahead and head back into that music because it wraps it up for yet another edition of Yesterday's News. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music like we said before. And when we return, we'll be back with more madness that you could shake a stick at as Under Radar rolls on right after this. So don't touch that dial away from the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. And we're back with the show of madness that somehow managed to help you out with your taxes, only known as Under the Radar. And apparently, according to Carl of the Maestro, he would give tax advice by telling others to save their receipts. And yeah, I guess that's the best tax advice we can give, because that's what we were told many a year ago, and we just kept collecting receipts for the past several years and keeping them in shoeboxes like what our family members used to do. It was effective, it worked, but it started to build underneath the bed, so it led to a whole bunch of problems sleeping. But still, the taxes back look good. And speaking of things looking good, folks, I think it's time for us to check out a couple of those screenshots and whatnots from the Twitterverse from this past weekend and beyond for another edition of the Four Squared Delight. And the first screenshot that we have up comes from none other than Landstrash with their said screenshot from the video game of a Crystal Story RPG. Nice! And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows our hero with a sword taking out not only breakable crates with fireballs, but with a cool looking sword, and would also be able to take out a couple of soldiers and creatures as well, and apparently according to Carl and the Mice Show, test dummies along with them, truly to prove how dangerous their sword skills is. And this game, for some strange reason, reminds me of Tales of Graces, with the exception of the breakable boxes, but either way you look at it, definitely reminds me of that with a little hint of L-Sword. And here's hoping in the near future for this set game that not only you get a chance to actually take out a couple of these said creatures with the fireballs, and according to Carl and the Mice Show, you also have lightning balls too, just in case you ask for different elements, but also a chance for you to find a cool sword inside of one of those breakable cases. And Carl and the Mice Show said, I'm not too entirely sure about you finding a sword in a case or those crates. Well, I found pretty rare objects inside of a hidden crate around the stage, but at the same time, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. So, hoping that I can find that needle in that haystack. But besides trying to find an unholy halberd inside of a giant oversized box of crates, or a stack of crates, the next screenshot that we have up comes from the Twitter page of Yuri Krupenin, and hopefully we said that name right, with their said screenshot from the video game of Drivers of the Apocalypse. And the screenshot to prove how much of an apocalyptic world you're going to be entering in, folks, would show our hero as he would race down the desert sands next to a giant oversized train, having several cars jump over his head, only for him to switch cars into an action wagon with apparently a missile launcher on the roof and several different tailpipes out the back of the car to have it keep up with the other cars on the map. For this said action wagon that I got a feeling Carl and the Maestro already made fun of, to take out not only the giant oil tanker, but even what appears to be some form of off-roader with it as well too. All before the cameras can fade to black. Now this automatically reminds me of a combination of Mad Max with a huge hint of what Twisted Metal would have been if they made another game. Now, here's hoping in the near future, and yes, Carl and my show, I'm going to ask it, here's hoping in the near future we get a chance to ride the train. I mean, it does look like a pretty cool train, it does have weapons on it, and I got a feeling in the near future there might be a mission where you have to take the stuff off of the train. So a chance for you to actually get the weapons and objects off of it would be pretty cool, or at least to drive it. And according to Carl of the Mice Show, they think that there's going to be some form of hidden vehicle on the train itself that you have to unlock if you're able to snap off the latch that's on the train itself. Yeah, that would make it like Driver 2, wouldn't it? Because then, for those who did know, in the classic game of Driver 2, you can actually go around the bases in Shea Stadium, or more or less in Wrigley Field, and get a car from underneath the parking lot if you're able to round the bases with a car. Yeah, a little hint and secret for you fans out there. Well, besides revealing secret information from classic games from yesteryear, the next game that we have up comes from the Twitter page of Zeb's Game Dev Blog with their said screenshot from the video game of The Carters 2. And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows our carton heroes not only pulling off power slides and rocket shots, but even being able to use a mallet to shockwave attack the other racers, as well as using some form of electro ball to take them out as well too. All while overlooking different environments of volcanoes, forests, and what appears to be some form of town square too. Not bad. Now, this screenshot automatically reminds me of, and I don't know why, but I'm getting a lot of Diddy Kong Racing from this. Really am. I would have said something along the lines of the Disney Magical Racing Tour, but definitely being reminded of Diddy Kong Racing, and here's hoping in the near future for this game, you get a chance to drive, fly, or use a hovercraft to make your way through all the stages in the game, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to customize your said cart to your liking. And Carl and the Maestro said they would definitely go with some form of Tyco RC car for theirs. Well, for me, I would probably go with the one from Roll Cage. That was the one I was comfortable with. But besides getting comfortable in a cool-looking cart in an Indy cart-like game, the next screenshot that we have up comes from the Twitter page of Sevrun Games with their said game of Crowned in Steel. Nice name for the game, too. And the screenshot that they provided for this week, and I got a feeling doubles over as a brutality if it was Mortal Kombat, would show our hero swinging at one of the bad guys for him to duck the first shot, get hit with the second shot, and by the third one would end up getting, well, cut in half. the long way, not the other way, but let's just say it was vertical, not horizontal. Either way you look at it, folks, in two pieces like Darth Maul, and boy oh boy, this game automatically reminds me of Conan the Barbarian with a little hint of Mortal Kombat in there as well too. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this game, since you already have a cool Conan the Destroyer sword to take out your enemies, you also get the option of using grapple attacks to take out your opponent with too. Because can you imagine with him missing that first swing and then getting hit with the second, you grabbing him and over-endoing him over that said cliff side that we forgot to mention? Would have made for a cool death, and I got a feeling his body would explode upon impact. And according to Caller the Maestro, that's impossible, but at the same time, if you throw him hard enough, Caller the Maestro, it can work. It can work. Trust me. And the last but not least screenshot that we have up for this week that doesn't involve any brutalities from Mortal Kombat that may potentially be in the game in the near future for Conan the Barbarian comes from none other than Ali J. Andro with their said screenshot from the video game of Upper Cute. And during this said screenshot, we would see our heroine as she would run across the buildings, jump from spot to spot, and even be able to take out enemies while flying in mid-air, and as well as using her fist to punch an enemy while in mid-air, causing the enemy to go off its rocker, and for her to continue to platform her way up a thin structure of I-beams and T-beams as the cameras faded to black. And this automatically reminds me, for some strange reason, of Jumping Flash. You know, with the exception of it not being over-the-shoulder camera view, but still something very dangerous to be experienced, especially if you're getting uppercutted in the worst ways known possible. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this set game, even though it's called Upper Cute and you do use uppercuts, there's a high possibility in the near future for you to pull off a tiger knee to take out your opponents. Cause I got a feeling it would be helpful in combat, you know, really throw them off their game. And Carla the Maestro said with those giant oversized robotic fists that you use to take people out with, highly doubt she's gonna be throwing any knees with that. You never know, Carla the Maestro. You never know. You never know. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out any other cool screenshots and whatnots from the Twitterverse from this past weekend and beyond for yourselves, then you can go ahead and head on over to the Twitter pages of not only Octo Curio, Oliver Snyders, Playing Indies, Indie Rhymes, Alpha Beta Gamer, Shot_Games, or even under the said Twitter page of Next Indie, or under the hashtag of Screenshot Saturday. But if you guys want to go ahead and check out the screenshots that we liked for this week and get a further interpretation of it for yourselves, then you can go ahead and head on over to our Twitter page, only known as the Agent 0012, where Carl and the Maestro decided to make a screenshot folder entitled April Screenshot Showers, and have a little umbrella underneath the screenshots to make sure they don't get wet from the rain. Oh, good idea. You know, I wish I had a thought of that, but I didn't. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back into that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with a special trip straight to the Indie Zone as Under the Radar rolls on right after this. So don't get lost in the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. All right, all you listeners of the madness and indie game lovers alike out there, welcome back to Under the Radar. And this week's screenshot of the week goes to, well, First off, none other than Subrun Games with their set game of Crown and Steel. And secondly goes to, well, Just Krupenin with their set screenshot from the video game of Drivers of the Apocalypse. Now, the reason why in the world these two games got the screenshot of the week for this week, well, for the first one, any time in a game where you can reduce somebody's health down by 20% and then straight to zero by chopping them in half, definitely deserve to be mentioned during this part of the show. And the reason for the second game, well, the sheer and utter chaos that I seen on screen for it, one. And two, the fact that this makes me cry a little bit at the fact that this is the closest thing we're gonna get to a post-apocalyptic Twisted Metal-esque like game that might have customizable cars. And if it does, that'll make this game out of this world. And speaking of out-of-this-world games, folks, I think it's time for us to adjust the tie on our Rod Sterling suits for a very special pre-tax day trip to the Indy Zone. And look, Carl and Maestro, over there in the corner, right next to that W2 form that mysteriously went flying in the air. There's some indie games coming in hot. Let's go grab them. And the first game that we have up comes from the developers Quite Okay Games. Nice developer name, by the way, with their set game of Le Sarah Summit Kingdom. Cool looking mountain for it too. And this game currently available for the low price of $19.99. And for those who wants the Elevation Edition, you can get it for as low as $23.73. Next game we have up after that comes from none other than the developers Tidbits Play with their set game of Tracks of Thought. And this game currently available for the low price of $9.99. Next game we have up after that comes from none other than Haveric Games with their set game of Last Visit. And this game currently available for the low price of $9.99. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Cal Blaster, or Cal Batter, according to Carl and the Maestro, with their set game of Moonshining. And this game currently available for the low price of $19.99. And for those out there who wants to get the Risky Business Bundle, like the sound of that, with their you can get it for as low as $33.98. The Risky Business Bundle. That is a great title for a bundle pack for two different games of two different professions that can get you in trouble. And the next game that we have up to get things back on track comes from the developers Maglagope Games, or Maglagope Studios, with their set game of Guardians of Hylore. And this game currently available for the low price of $3.99. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Irandius Industries with their set game of Nebula's Fleet Command. And this game currently available for the low price of $29.99. But for those out there who wants the Hooded Horse Sci-Fi Strategy Bundle, and get your wallets ready for this one, folks, you can get it for as low as $99.35. And according to Carl and the Maestro, that's nothing. If you go with the Publisher Bundle, you have to pay well over $299.15 for well over 15 games. Yikes! But besides that sticker shock, folks, next game we have up comes from the developers Afterburn with their set game of Railbound. And this game currently available for the low price of, and Carl and the Maestro with the price of $16.33. Nice! And for those out there who wants the Railway Puzzle Bundle, you can get it for as low as $50.36. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Magic Rain Studios with their set game of Lua. And this game will be coming soon to a Steam machine near you, so make sure you add it to your wish list so you know when this game's going to be coming out. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Quiet Little Feet with their set game of Where Birds Go to Sleep. And this game also will be coming soon to the Steam machine near you, so add it to your wish list so you know when it comes out. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Ermite Games with their set game of Against the Storm. And this game currently available for a low price of $29.99. But for those out there who wants the Complete Storm Bundle, or the Complete Against the Storm Bundle, I think they should have called it the Complete Storm Bundle, but either way, name aside, this game will be currently available with the bundle pack of $39.57. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Crispy Creative with their set game of A Long Journey to an Uncertain End. And this game currently available for the low price of $24.99. Next game after that comes from the developers Act Zero with their set game of We the Refugees Ticket to Europe. And this game currently available for the low price of $14.99. But for those out there who wants to try it before you buy it, there's a demo for it, so give it a shot. Next game we have up after that comes from none other than the developers of Jan Zitika with their set game of Factoroids. And this game currently available for the low price of $8.99. And if you want to try it before you buy it, there's a demo for it right now. Go get it. Next game after that comes from the developers Clockwork Pile with their set game of Shardpunk. And this game currently available for the low price of $8.39. But for those who wants to try it before you buy it, currently can. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Excellent Rectangle. Nice developer name, by the way, with their set game of Tape to Tape. And this game currently available for the low price of $14.99. And the next game we have up after that comes from developers Fen Kuei with their set game of Rogue Command. And this game currently available for the low price of $15.99. But for those who wants the Rogue Goo Bundle, you can get it for as low as $22.48. And the last but certainly not least game we have up for this week comes from none other than the developers Frostforge Games with their set game of Wild Night Darkest Isles. And this game will be coming soon to a Steam machine near you, but for those out there who can't wait for that date to be revealed, they currently have a demo for it right now that you can try before the game comes out. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still floating through the Indieverse via the Fifth Dimension door we opened, then you can go ahead and head on over to the store.steampower page of one man only known as store.steampower.com and just look up that DreamHack Beyond Indie Showcase page to check out a whole bunch of games that can only be described as out of this world. I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with another back-breaking, spine-tingling edition of the Wild World of Stunts as Under the Radar rolls on right after this. So don't get lost in that madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. All right, all you risk takers and backbringers out there, welcome back to Under the Radar. And now it's time for us to find out which one of you crazy stunners is going to get a break on your taxes, but not on those ribs you broke during any crazy thing you did this past weekend for another edition of the Wild World of Stunts. And the first stunt that we have up comes from none other than Frosty the Skater, or what was his name again? Apparently, according to Call of the Maestro, it comes from Skates McGee. That's not his real name, is it? Apparently it is. From the video game of Slope Crashers by Bite Parrot. Now, during this stunt by this unnamed snowman who proves that you don't need to be cool in the winter to stay cool on a board, or a guitar in this case, would show our hero of the snowboard variety pulling off not only a 360 into a hang glider, into a 360 rail grind directly into a barrel roll parachute grab of sorts to land on that said guitar and on the fresh sand, what it looks like what, Call of the Maestro? Like a glove. Now, Call of the Maestro has finally gotten the name of the snowman, and its name is Alan. Alan the Snowman? Oh, okay, we'll go with it, but at the same time said that this stunt was a perfect 10, especially seeing the fact that he's in a fall stage as a snowman. Well, it's fall. I mean, it should be cold enough for a snowman to survive, right? Right? Apparently, they're giving me the thumbs up over in the corner, but either way you look at it, folks, the next stunt that we have up comes from none other than Mickey the Meerkat with their said stunt from the video game of Bite Parrot, or from Slope Crashers by Bite Parrot. Now, the reason why and what we screwed that up, folks, is because what we're about to see here is something that not even the I can't believe it's not butter guy could believe. Because we would see Mickey the Meerkat here getting on what appears to be a triple cheese topping pizza with pepperonis on it and pulling off some cool stunts in the snow. Because not only he would be able to do a 360 grind into a grappling hook grab, leading directly into a side barrel roll to land on that fresh pie like what, Carl and the Maestro? Like a glove. Now, the PR department and Carl and the Maestro, who got hungry after watching that stunt, is giving that stunt a 10, and at the same time is calling one of the local pizza joints for that same pizza. Yeah, but no meerkat on it. No meerkat on it. And the next stunt that we have up, and wow, a triple header from Bite Parrot, but this one comes from the Magic Capybara with their said stunt from the video game of Slope Crashers by Bite Parrot. Now, we got the title right, folks. We definitely did this time. But I got a feeling triple dipping into the Wild World of Stunts has consequences, and it's proven never truer by this said capybara with the magical cap. Because during this said stunt, as he would do a 360 and grind his way into the skies, he would do a single foot 360 into a helicopter flyby, only for somebody to fly by him, hit him with a balloon to cause him to expand, and for him to fly directly into the air and stay up there for about a good 5 minutes before one of the staff was able to get him down. Now, Carl and the Maestro would have gave this stunt a perfect 10 if he hadn't been able to land it without the assistance of the two twin penguins that helped him down from the ground. And to make matters worse, not only did he lose a chance on a cool stunt, but he lost the race too. That happened right before the finish line. Yikes. Man, I feel you, man. I feel you. I've been there before. That's happened to me on several different occasions in Mario Kart. Ouch. That's painful. But speaking of painful things, folks, and I got a feeling this next one's gonna really hurt the wallet, comes from none other than the Precinct game with their set game of the Precinct. Now, the reason why in the world we said this one's gonna hurt the wallet, folks, is because Detective Jones here, who decided to take his new patrol car out for a joyride, would really get some joy down in his heart. What? Down in his heart. What? Down in his heart. And how? Because he would be able to fly through the skies right above a cab driver, landing on all four wheels and most likely losing a hubcap. Like what, Carl and the Maestro? Like a glove. But unfortunately for him, he would not spot Mr. Petroni's cafe next door that he would run directly into, causing his car to explode and for a couple of the patrons of the cafe to be very scared afterwards. Now, Doc, is he hurt? Apparently, according to the doctors, no, he was not hurt. He didn't sustain any injuries. But at the same time, his wallet got hurt because not only he had to pay for damages to the cafe, which was well over $50,000, but also for the new patrol car that was $250,000. Now, I'm pretty sure you're reading that report wrong because it was $300,000 for the building and $50,000 for the car. And how do I know that when I'm looking at the paperwork right now? Apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro and the doctors, because I read it right. All right, makes sense. Really does. And the last but not least stunt that we have up for this week comes from none other than Gustavo Lemozos, or Gustavo Lemos BS, with their said stunt of Fuja Constructo. And seeing the fact that my Spanish is a bit rusty, we see Gustavo here heading off to the Los Santos areas to pull off some cool stunts. And Carl and the Maestro said, what sort of cool stunts? Well, buddy, he would make his way on over to the construction site in downtown Los Santos and would be able to ride next to where the construction and metro station would be and would pull off a cool 360 in super slow motion, only for him to land on the upper part of the highway with all four wheels landing perfectly like what, Carl and the Maestro? Like a glove. And Carl and the Maestro said, but wait, there's more. Because we would see Gustavo coming back with another stunt after that with the but wait, there's more on it as well too. Taking his Saturno Z330 out on the road and directly into a parking garage, doing a barrel roll like Star Fox taught him, for him to land directly in the parking garage but get wedged just a little bit but still be able to squeeze his way on in there. Like what, Carl and Maestro? Like a glove. In the most impressive ways known possible, and at the same time scaring a couple of people who was in the parking lot. Wait, who was in the parking lot? It looked empty to me. And Carl and the Maestro told us to rewind the tape. Okay, over there in the corner. Oh my God, he almost hit a lady on the way up. Now, Doc, is the lady all right? Apparently, according to the doctors over in the corner, no, the lady is not all right because she really did get hit. All right, how bad was it? According to the doctors over in the corner, she took a tire to the shoulder, so her shoulders separated. And from the impact of the said crash that she experienced, not only did she break her foot, her tailbone, and her knee in the process, as well as her femur. Ooh, that's bad. That is real bad. And the PR department chimed in by not only saying those last two stunts got perfect 10s, but at the same time, the damage to that said street light that he hit when he did that barrel roll by the construction site, he's owed the city well over $135,000, and they're still looking for him. And wanted us to say, if you've seen his location, please write it down on the bottom of your screen. You mean say it on the bottom of your screen, but they keep forgetting this is radio, right? Yeah, of course. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out what other crazy stunts of people getting themselves made for unnecessary fame, then you can go ahead and head on over to the socialclub.rockstargames page, only known as socialclub.rockstargames.com, and check out which one of these crazy stunners out here is most likely going to treat tax day like a day in the hospital, but with more pain than your average tax brackets. And most likely brackets that they're going to be using in their neck from whatever crazy stunt that's going to break it. Carl and Maestro, as well as the PR departments, give me a thumbs up for that recovery, which won't take me 6 to 12 months like they will. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back into that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with another edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week right after this. So don't touch that dial away from the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you graveyard shift racers out there tonight, welcome back to Under the Radar. And this week's Stunts of the Week goes to none other than Bite Parrot with their said stunt from the video game of Slope Crashers. And yes, it does include Mickey the Meerkat for that one. And also goes to none other than Gustavo Lemons BS with their said stunt of Fuga Construction. And yeah, I know my Spanish is terrible, but that stunt was awesome. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick these two stunts, folks, well, for the first one, anybody who's able to ride on a pizza pie to get from one place to the other pulling off cool stunts, even with a grappling hook, definitely deserves to be mentioned during this said part of the show. And the reason why in the world the second stunt made it in for the stunt of the week for this week, well, anytime you get a chance to see somebody use a median to pull off a somewhat of a gyroscope, high-five a street light, and still make their way to a quicker way to work, definitely deserve to be mentioned during this set part of the show. And not to mention, both of these people were able to double dip successfully. Well, with the exception of the capybara with the magical abilities that's still up there. But besides getting Carl and the Maestro to get a balloon popper to get that said capybara down from where it is, I think it's time for us to get ready to rev our engines and check out some cool tracks before you pay those taxes, as we get ready to go into another edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. And the first track that we have up comes from none other than Vax4223 with their said track of Sky Canal Car Racing. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this track for this week, well, not only because of the fact that it included every car across the board with the exception of vans and weaponized vehicles you know and love so much, but this tubular track is entirely made out of, well, tubes. And on top of that, a high possibility of crosstown traffic contact that will and can happen during this said race. And with that warning alone, the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there is to watch out for crosstown traffic. Because if you don't, there's a high possibility of you getting T-boned by a car at a moment's notice that will cost you during this said race. And the most painful, and I'll say it again, painful ways known possible. So keep your head on a swivel, or else you're going to be going to a Sizzler or an Outback Steakhouse to eat a good old-fashioned T-bone that will cost you the lead during the race. Just as a heads up. And the next track that we have up comes from none other than Fran the Man 87 with their said track, a boosted liftoff GP. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this track, not only because of the litany list of cars you get a chance to choose from, with the exception of cycles, vans, and weaponized vehicles you know and love so much, but also due to the sheer craziness of boosted combat that can happen during this said race. And no Colin Maestro, no rockets during this race. You don't have to worry about that. But one thing you will have to worry about is the hairpin turn that is featured during this said race that is on checkpoint 20 and checkpoint 20, according to Colin the Maestro, checkpoint 15 and checkpoint 20. Yeah, I got the numbers backwards. I was going to include 27, but it all depends on what car you drive for that one. So make sure you pick the right car for the job and a car with good handling, and you should be able to handle this race. We hope. We hope. And the next track that we have up comes from none other than Ambrosio 5. Nice name, by the way, with their said track of the A5 Face-to-Face Jump 2. Now, if you had a sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach like I did when I heard of the name of this track, saw the pictures for this track, and raced in this track with all the cars that is featured for this, then you're right on the money. So, as a bit of a heads-up warning for you track racers out there for this said track, you have to complete an entire lap for the checkpoint to count. Now, if you fail to do so, you have to start back from whence you came. That's the heads-up warning, first of all. Secondly, make sure you pick the right car for the job for this set race, because if you don't and you have a bad start, it will catch up with you from the start of this race all the way to the finish. And with this race being well over 20 minutes or more, depending on what car you decide to pick or your friends, let's just say another warning I forgot to mention, with several cars in this being cars that shouldn't be able to be airborne, is to make sure you watch out for flying cars when you jump up that ramp, because a mid-air collision is imminent during this said race. Just letting you know. And the next track that we have up comes from none other than Chase Bat 1 with their said track of the F6 Miami Grand Prix. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this Grand Prix track, well, thank you to Colin the Maestro and the PR department who wanted to see more Formula One tracks on this channel. But at the same time, another reason why we decided to pick it, because it reminded me of that old school Formula One game I played as a kid. And here's hoping in the near future he makes more. But to get back on track, no pun intended, with this track, the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there is to make sure you go with medium tires during this said race, because of several hairpin turns that are featured during it, including checkpoint 6, checkpoint number 19, and even checkpoint 22, checkpoint 24, and I do believe checkpoint 25 if you want to add it to the mix. Because if you're not prepared, let's just say it's a slippery slope and you can fall off this track into the drink, depending on what barricade you hit if you're like me. And the last but not least track that we have up for this week comes from none other than... It comes from the creator Metabikes. Nice name, by the way, nice name, with their said track of Grand Prix Diamond Casino. reason why in the world we decided to pick this track, even though Carl and the Maestro would say, we mention these tracks all the time when they're at the Diamond Casino, but this one thinks outside the box. Or in this case, outside in the parking lot, that they decided to include for this said race. Now, the only tip of advice I have for you race fans out there, with all the cars in the map at your disposal, with the exception of vans and weaponized vehicles, is to make sure you pick the right one for the job that has good handling. Because if you don't, well, there's a high possibility of you wiping out and crashing and burning during this said track, which will cost you during this said race. So make sure you choose your car wisely. And hopefully you get that checkered flag and that good-looking, giant, oversized trophy Carl and the Maestro's holding in the corner. Where'd you get that from? Apparently he got it from the said Los Santos Racing Committee. Didn't know they existed. But besides all that, folks, if you guys and gals want to go ahead and check out any other cool race that are still out there that we decided to include in playlist form for you to try at home yourselves, then you can go ahead and head on over to the socialclub.rockstargames page, only known as socialclub.rockstargames.com, and look up the playlist entitled, and Carl and the Maestro would say, Jump Fools 2, and this time with a Mr. T Mohawk on it, to check out those tracks and more for yourselves. I guess with that said, for this week wraps up for another edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for Under the Radar for this week, right after this. So don't touch that dial away from the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, all you listeners of the madness, seeing the fact that the infomercials are flickering on and off our television sets and we've got to get out of here before that truly happens, we might as well bring control of the television sets back to you, the listeners of the madness at home, as we bring Under the Radar for this week to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of that madness we were able to give you for this week, we got you covered. Because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our Facebook, SoundCloud, Instagram, and Tumblr pages, still all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio, under the hashtag Under the Radar 486. And for those who wants to catch this show and all the musical goodness we had along with it, you can head on over to our Live 365 page, still named the same, only known as Music Village Radio. And Carl and the Maestro said you got the order mixed up with that, and no, I didn't. I practiced it 46 times in the mirror this morning, which is 0, because we don't practice things around here. And if you guys want to figure out what the crazy and zany things we still got prepared for this month of fools, like a tax rebate check we've got that's worth that much of the amount of shows we've done for it, then you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, Discord, and Twitter pages, still all named the same, only known as ZWO Agent 0012. Before we head out for the night, we'd like to thank, as always, you the listeners of the madness out there for listening in to a very special pre-tax season edition of Under the Radar. If you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like Yakko, Wacko, and Dot during one episode of Animaniacs when they closed it out. Yeah, you know the PR department knows where I'm going with this one, and they're giving me the thumbs up, and at the same time has a miniature scale water tower over in a corner. Where'd you find that? Apparently the internet. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for doing that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys, and we can't wait to hear what sort of cool musical tunes that you'll be playing at a local cartoon convention in the near future. Yes, Carl and the Maestro, they do exist, and here's hoping your music makes it. And why? Because we believe in you guys. That's why. That's why. And speaking of people's music we believe in to be featured during a loony show like no other, we would like to thank our musical guests for this week, none other than Carl and the Maestro with their said songs of not only the madness for the intro for this week's edition of the show, and of course for the systematic error that is currently being featured during the outro for this week's edition of Under the Radar. Like always, Technoax, and especially Carl and the Maestro, keep up the great work, and we can't wait to hear what you got coming down the tubes next. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, they might get Technoax here by next week, too. Right? Cool. And finally, last but not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for doing all those sweet, sweet video game hits, clips, tracks, and stunts that we had a chance to mention during this week's show. Like always, guys, keep them coming, because you never know what show might be coming around the corner next. Hint, 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 hint. And for you crazy stunners out there, we managed to get you this cool-looking helmet that we got with a piece of our rebate money to help you protect yourself during any of the crazy stunts you try to do. That'll most likely hospitalize you, according to Carl and the Maestro, and they might be right. And I guess with everybody thanked, you guys out there know we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro saying, goodbye, nurse. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And always remember, don't you ever forget, no matter what time of the day this show may air, during whatever sort of week we happen to kick off, and or get you over, under, around, or through a hump to help you power through it in the best ways known possible that may lead to some form of spring break that we almost forgot to mention that may or may not feature Carson Daly at a moment's notice, coming out of retirement just to bring you into it. And with us bringing madness to go along with it, to keep flying low and stay under the radar. Good night, everybody.